Thou shalt not listen to a pastor who only knows James 2 verse 10, telling you that all sins are the same. That is propaganda. Yes, a sin is a sin, but the consequences are different. If we can go to prison right now, I can tell you which criminal is a serious criminal and which one is a small-time criminal just by listening to how they were arrested. A small-time criminal gets arrested by the police who came without a blue light. A police who comes while the gun is on the waistline. Because that person is a small-time criminal. But a serial killer gets arrested by someone who comes, guns blazing, screaming from the top of their lungs, sirens all over the place because they know they are dealing with a dangerous suspect. If the police know how to measure crime, how is it that you think that God does not know how to measure sins? Even a lawyer will tell you that a shoplifter can face a fine or a 6 months or 1 year prison sentence, but a serial killer will face a minimum of 15 years for murder. A lawyer knows how to measure crime. It is like that with God. Don't listen to pastors of propaganda who only reads one verse without reading other verses that can back the same verse. 1 John chapter 5, verse 16 to 17. If you see a fellow believer sinning in a way that does not lead to death, you should pray and God will give that person life. But there is a sin that leads to death, and I am not saying that you should pray for those who commit it. All wicked actions are sin, but not every sin leads to death. There is a sin that leads to death. When you commit that sin, you are on the highway, on the fast lane, rushing to your grave, first spiritually, then physically, and we bury you. Don't listen to pastors of propaganda who tell you that all sins are the same, trying to compare a serial killer with a child who stole a sweet. Genesis 3 verse 3, but God said, you shall not eat of the fruit that is in the midst of the garden, neither shall you touch it, lest you die. There are some sins when you do them, you die. Exodus 22 verse 18, thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. Do not allow a sorceress to live, because that person will finish us all. You are busy praying for a witch. Why would you pray for a witch? Because once you pray for that person and that person gets healed, that person goes back to his old actions and he starts bewitching everyone, killing people while they are not aware that this is the suspect. Because a witch kills you in a way that you cannot see. Romans 6 verse 23, wages of sin is death. James 1 verse 5, when sin is allowed to grow, it gives birth to death. So sin is not the same. It can start as a small sin and it grows and it grows and it grows to a point where it is big enough to kill you. Stop listening to pastors of propaganda who tells you that sin is the same size. No, sin grows. James 1 verse 5, when sin is allowed to grow, it gives birth to death. Now I'm going to read a verse that we only read in men's conference. Proverbs 6 verse 24 up until 35. To preserve you from the evil woman, from the smooth tongue of the adulteress. Do not desire her beauty in your heart, and do not let her capture you with her eyelashes. You know, there is this other movie, there was a woman. If you look into her eyes, you become a stone. That woman is called Medusa. You know, people just like to buy clothes. They don't even know what they are buying. A person goes and buys Versace, not knowing that Versace has the symbol of that same woman, Medusa, with hair like the hair of a snake. If she looks into your eyes, you die. Versace was made from this goddess called Medusa. For the price of a prostitute is only a loaf of bread. But a married woman hands down a precious life. You know, it's only gonna cost you a price of 5 loaves in South Africa for you to buy a prostitute. But a married woman will cost you your life. You die when you play with a married woman. There is no two way about it. Stay away from married women, guys. You know, when we were young, my father used to tell us, guys, there are many women. Why must you go and take another man's wife? You know, even God, when he was talking to David, he asked David, why did you have to take Uriah's wife? I have given you a lot of wives. And if it was little, I would have given you more. That's what God says to David. I would have given you more women. Why did you have to go and take Uriah's wife? That is a sin that leads to death. He gave birth to a child and that child died. For the price of a prostitute is only a loaf of bread, but a married woman hands down a precious life. Can a man carry fire next to his chest and his clothes not be burned? Or can one walk on hot coals and his feet not be scorched? So is he who goes into his neighbor's wife. None who touches her will go unpunished. There is no way that you can sleep with another man's wife and go unpunished. Even if the person does not see it, God is watching you. People do not despise a thief if he steals to satisfy his appetite when he is hungry. You know, if somebody is stealing because he is angry, we won't be angry at that person. But if he is caught, he will pay sevenfold and he will give all the goods of his house. When we catch a thief, we have to punish the thief, but we won't be mad at that person because he stole out of hunger. He who commits adultery lacks sense. Sleeping with another man's wife means you are stupid. You lack sense. You are not a man. He who commits adultery lacks sense. He who does it destroys himself. You are not destroying anyone. You are destroying yourself. He will get wounds and dishonor. And his disgrace will not be wiped away. You are just applying for a beating. You are just applying to get dishonored. You are filling in forms to get punched in the face. For jealousy makes a man furious. A man gets angry out of jealousy. And he will not spare when he takes revenge. Even if you can be a gangster, you will be killed by someone who is nothing, who is not known, because you are sleeping with his wife. A stupid man will kill you. A sweet man will kill you. He will accept no compensation. There is no money that you can pay a person for sleeping with his wife. He will refuse, though you multiply gifts. You can try to bribe that person, but that person will hold a grudge and he will look for an opportunity to kill you. If he cannot do it, he will find ways to do it. He will rather hire someone to come and kill you. That's why I'm saying this is a verse for men's conference. Women were not supposed to hear this, but I have to say it for everyone to hear. I hope you have heard me. All sins are sins, but the consequences are different. Stop listening to pastors of propaganda. Now you have heard the story, the whole story. Khotso, I believe.